Right, I'm hoping I've got you at the right camera angle now. Right, so I'm going to just wait for a few more people to come on. We are 80 miles apart, 85 miles apart. Hi everybody. Yeah. That's brilliant. Right, I'm just going to wait a few more and then I'm just going to get onto it because this is quite a long session. This one is. Nice cleavage. Oh my god, can you see my cleavage? Hello Lisa. What have you and Jenny got planned for this Friday? It's Friday or Thursday session, isn't it? So, yeah. I was sent home from work today as asthma. Yeah, a lot of people are getting sent home now, aren't they? Yeah, it's hard times, but stay safe, everybody. That's all you can do. Just keep washing your hands, washing your face. Yeah. Got any bread? No, we got no bread in our shops either. Right, okay, so there's quite a few on at the moment, so that's fine. So it's the third part of this, which is the toolbook bag, book, wallet kind of thing. Yep, so today we are going to finish off this section in the centre and then we are going down to sewing it all together and making it one complete book. And then, fingers crossed, we will get it all finished today in the third session. So, last week we finished off making the slip pockets and then adding it onto the afternoon. No, you got to stop it. We've sewn the slip pocket onto the actual zip pocket outer, and I'm going to show you now how to make the actual zip pocket. I've already done one and I'm going to show you how to make the other one, and then I'll show you how to sew it all together. So I've done a bit of prep work. So in the instructions of the cutting out, I don't tell you to cut some tabs. As you notice, I've done some zip tabs. They're only 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Trying to keep a straight face. Yeah, so you'll need to, if you want to eliminate the bulk when you're putting the binding on, you'll want to do this. If you're okay sewing through the zip when you're actually doing the binding section of this part of the inner pocket, you will basically don't have to do the actual zip tabs. But I'm going to do the zip tabs. This isn't in the instructions, so for anybody new to the channel or to the group, I will be linking the 2 other videos that I've filmed, and I will also be doing the blog posts with all the cutting out, but these bits are missing off the blog post from the cutting out. So this is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Right, so you need to get one of your number 3 zips and cut it down to 8.5 inches. So I'm just going to trim mine down because mine are a bit longer. Right, so I'm going to bring down the camera to you to the table now so you can see what I'm doing. Right, so you're going to get your tabs. First of all, if you've got a continuous zip like I have, you'll need to sew both ends. Any questions you have, if I don't see them, I will answer once the videos, once I finish the live session. Right. Right, so I've sewn over the two ends so I don't lose my zip pull. And now I'm just going to go with my tabs, right side facing down at the end of my zip. I'm just going to sew, bearing in mind, always remember the seam allowance for this case is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to sew 1/4 of an inch across. And I'm using a stitch length 2.4. I've got a size 14 needle still in my machine. And I'm using a polyester thread. Low, oh my god, low's on. So thread in the house, yeah, thread. Right, so I've just sewn across and I'm just going to flip it over. And I'm just going to top stitch across 1/8 of an inch away. My mum and dad have started calling me Fred. It's so funny. Right, so I'm just going to pull my zip pull to that one side. I'm just going to repeat the same process this side with this tab, right side facing down onto the right side of the zip, sew across at 1/4 of an inch. And oh, it would help, my needle has just come and threaded. I'm back. Right, sorry about that. Right, so I'll tell you what the problem is. And I don't know if Victoria Pete's had the same problem, is that it keeps coming unthreaded up here. So every time it comes unthreaded, because there's a little spring in here, if you don't catch that spring, it generally makes the machine mess up. So the other week I had it serviced, and ever since I've had it serviced, this machine has been playing up so much. So I'm going to get it serviced again and by Elna this time, rather than taking it to Frank of some place in Birmingham. So yeah, alright, so yeah, sorry about that. Right, so I'm going to go down again and finish where I left off. Right, so we've sewn on the one tab on the end, and we're just going to sew this one on. Can just someone share it in the group that I'm back live, please, because be just be nice to get all the people back, and rather than hi. Right, so I'm just going to sew this on. And then I'm just going to flip it over and top stitch across the top. The next thing we need to do is, because my zip tabs are quite wider than my actual zip tape, I do sometimes get a problem. It's when I don't hold the thread, and sometimes it catches underneath and jumps out. Yeah, mine's the same. So if anybody ever buys the Elna 720 Pro, you really do need to hold your thread here as you're loading it, because if you don't catch it through that loop bit properly, it won't actually sew properly. So you really do, if anybody does ever buy the Elna 720 Pro, they need to hold the thread here and then carry on threading it around. And then obviously, I don't know if all Elnas are like that. I know one of my other Elnas was definitely not like that. So, yeah, just a word of warning. If anybody does get the 720 Pro, just to put your hand there once you've threaded it to that point. Put your hand there and then carry on threading it. Yeah, so, yeah, bit of a tip there for you. Right. Right, so I'm just going to trim back these excess so it's the same width as the actual zip tape. Thanks, Victoria. Right, so now I've trimmed back those, we're going to make the other zip pocket. So I'm going to start off with the one that's got my slip pocket on, making sure I've got it the right way up. And quilter's tape, baffer tape, or whatever anyone who wants to call it, and I'm just going to tape across that top bit there, all the way across. Right, so I'm going to peel back this bit. And as I remember, this line here, this sewn line here, you might not pick this up on the camera, but remember I divided this pocket up into 3 sections. One for large, like scissors, well, your stalk scissors, and then for 2 glue pens. The centre line that I sewed was my centre. If you haven't got these centre lines, you might want to fold it in half and find the centre top. Then we're going to take the zip and then fold it and just crease it in the center. Now I'm going to match up the center, the 2 centers together, and that's right side of the zip to right side of the zip pocket. And then I'm just going to run some more tape across the top. Hi! So here's a question for you guys. So as we are going into the apocalypse, where we are going to have to isolate ourselves, I'm planning to do quite a lot of drawing to catch up on future projects for fabric and stuff. So what would you like me to draw to be able to make fabric and panels out of? Right, so I'm going to get a zip pocket lining, and we're going to do that right side facing down. And I'm just going to match up the two edges and stick those into place. Using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm going to sew across. I'm not going to reverse my stitches at the start and at the end. I'm just going to sew. And as I'm coming to that zip pull, I'm just going to lift up my foot with my needle down. It's just started snowing. Oh my. No, it's just wet here. Garden birds. Yeah, I was thinking of bringing some garden birds with some flowers and some sheds, garden sheds and stuff. So I've just moved my zip pull out the way, and I'm just going to carry on sewing all the way across. Bees. Yeah, yeah, definitely going to do the bees because you're not the only one that's asking for that. Now I'm just going to open that up and just finger press it. Flowers and plants, yeah. Definitely flowers because need a bit of sunshine in our life. And then just going to go to the machine and just quickly give this a press. Dragonflies. Now see, I could do the bees and dragonflies together in a set, and butterflies and bees and dragonflies and ladybirds, so yeah, I could do all those. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from where the fold is, and I'm putting it to a stitch length 3, number 3. Just lift up my presser foot. Oh, ladybirds. Yeah, definitely. I have got actually a few ladybird doodles in my sketchbook, which I'm planning of adding them. Fairies. I never thought about fairies, to be fair. I've never really been a magical person, but I can see fairies in like fairy gardens with toadstools. I like my toadstools, don't I? So, yeah. Right, so moving on to the other side. Now I've top stitched across the top. I've ran tape across the top of the zip tape. Then I'm going to get the plain outer zip pocket part, peel off the backing, and stick this right side facing down, matching up the raw edge to the zip tape. Right, and then I'm just going to flip that over and stick some tape on the back. other sewing theme illustrations. Well, I was thinking about that. I was thinking of doing something later on in the year though for the sewing theme, so then you can make yourself a Christmas present or something. Just peel back that backing tape, and then we're just going to get the other zip pocket lining right side facing down and stick that into place. So when you're sticking that into place, you'll need to match up the outer edges, because your tab will overhang a bit on both of your on the end of your zips. We will trim that back, don't worry. So I'm just going to sew these together using 1/4 inch seam allowance. Oh, sewing theme advent calendar. That's an idea. Well, I was thinking of bringing out an advent calendar panel. So, oh, yeah. I don't think I want to be drawing Santa stuff though yet, but you have to really plan ahead, don't you? So yeah. So I've just lifted up my presser foot and moved the zip pull out the way, and carried on sewing. Now I'm just going to open that back up, give that a bit of a finger press. Same with this one. Right, so I'm just going to take this to the iron and just press this completely open and neat. And I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away. I was going to do like Easter bunnies and that, but I've been so behind on likes of everything. I thought, no, I'm not going to do that this year. But I could bring it out next year. Just move this zip pull out the way. Right, so next thing you need to decide is, last week we started the mesh pocket, and what you need to decide is whether you want to divide this pocket up into sections. So I'm leaving one side, so this one I've completely closed off. So when the mesh pocket is on top, this will be one complete large pocket. But on the other side, which is this one here, I want to be able to divide this pocket up into 3 sections. So the way you're going to do that is, rather than closing up your zip pocket at the moment, you'll leave your zip pocket open. Then you're going to separate, so not this side, we're not working with this side, we're working with this side only. You're going to separate the lining away from the outer. So I'm going to flip that over. And if you want to, you can pin that into place, which I will do. So just basically, you've got your outer, which is interfaced. Then we're going to measure from this line, from the base up 4.5 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And I'm just going to mark it just a few lines on either end of the one, on the short end of the one side and one on the short end of the other. Now we're going to get the mesh pocket, find which is the right side. I'm on the right side. Fold it in half, and you're going to have to weave a pin in at the half sections because this Annie stuff is quite large, got quite large holes. And just do that on both sides. So I'm just weaving that through the holes so I can make out where the centre is. Right, and then I'm just going to open it up. Pop the pins on the bottom where the centre is of the mesh. And this should just rest above the marks. So your binding should sit, I'm hoping you can see this, your binding bottom bit should sit where that mark is, and then we're just going to pin that into place. And do the same with the other side. You'll notice your mesh will be hanging over at the moment. We will trim that back. So the first thing we need to do is just sew down the two sides to where the bottom is of your actual outer pocket is. We can move those centre pins out of the way now. And I'm not reversing my stitch at the end, at the bottom, because I may have to unpick just a few stitches at the end, just so we can attach the other pocket to this bit. Right, so I'm going to divide this up into three sections. So I'm just going to work out how much that will be. So I'm going to do 3 1/4 on each of the sections. So I'm just going to make a little mark on the actual top of the binding. So I've just basically drawn 2 lines, and then I'm just going to sew all the way down, reversing my stitches at the top where the binding is, but not reversing my stitches at the bottom. Don't worry about the pocket at the bottom, because we will catch that and finish that off properly when we come to put the centre section in, which is the spine. Right, just get rid of some of that. Right, I'm just going to run the iron over those 2 marks that I did, but try and not touch the net part of the actual. Right, so the next thing you need to do is make sure your stitching can be pulled apart to around about 1/4 inches at the bottom. So if you think logically, you don't need, if you can stop 1/4 inch away from the bottom of the outer pocket. So I'm just going to undo that one and that one. Right, so we're going to peel this net back so far, and we're just going to pin this part into place here, just to keep it out of the way at the moment. Yeah, Karen, my oldest daughter's schools started to close down, so she's in year 8, and basically she's been sent home and she's not going back to school for indefinite until it's all over. Right, so I've opened this up, so the linings are out now, and then we're just going to fold it in half. And make sure the mesh side is up, because this is the point where we can't catch it. And we're just going to run some clips down the bottom to stop it from moving around. And then I'm just going to quickly run a row of basting stitches on the bottom row, so it holds everything together. I'm not catching any of the mesh, I'm just catching the 4 pieces of fabric, which is your 2 outer and your 2 lining pieces. Okay, so now the next thing you need to do is make your other one. So the other one, you can make it with a complete large pocket. My large pocket is going to hold my scissors, my large scissors in. If you're not going to do that, you need to leave it open, attach the mesh to one side, sew these 2 together, which we're going to do because we're just going to overlap it by 1/4 inch at the bottom, and sew 2 lines so they hold together. Bring the mesh over, sew the mesh on and separate it, and then fold this back upon itself. But as beginner, I would personally keep 1 large pocket. You can store quite a large amount of EPP pieces in there, so it's totally up to you. So I'm going to get the slip pocket side facing down, and we're going 1/4 inch over, overlapping that one there, and we're just going to sew these 2 together. Now you say, thinking, oh, it's raw edges, but once the spine is sewn up on top of it, you won't have any raw edges at all showing, so don't worry about the raw edges. The reason why I've done it like this is so it's easier for you to put the mesh pocket and sort it out, and divide it up into pockets, into slip pockets, for when you actually want to add the mesh pocket, that is. Right, so we're going to take that pin out of the mesh pocket and bring that mesh pocket up and pin that, or clip that into place. I'm just going to clip it. And then I'm just going to sew all the way across on both short ends to hold that mesh pocket into place. And then I'm just going to start from here, which is the zip that isn't finished at the top. So I'm going to catch the zip tabs and close it all off completely now. Oop, caught. What are you catching on? There you go. Just bear with me. Right, let's try again. You never guess what, my needle's just bent. Oh, it's all happening today. Size 14. Yeah, needle's completely bent. Put that in my sharps bin in a minute. Do any of you have sharp bins? I do, and mine's an old tin that I keep all my sharps in, but I don't know what to do with them, so I've just got about 100 bent pins or broken pins or replaced pins. So let's just try that. So what do you do with your sharps pin box, or do you chuck the whole box in the bin, or do you, I don't know, what do you guys do? I've never actually thought about it until now. No, just wrap them up in paper and put them in the bin. Yeah, a bit like what you do with glass. Right, I've noticed my foot is going up at an angle, so Bulky Sea Made, many of you have bought one from me. I'm just gonna pop that underneath. Yeah, yeah, I used to keep mine in an old-fashioned 35mm camera film tub, and that's now in my studio at my parents' house, and I've now here got a mince tin from Aldi that had mince in. Yeah, yeah, Sandy, do you mean like what you use your EPP for? I use the sew tin thread and who? Ah, yeah. Right, so I'm just going to go to the other side and right, as you notice, I've got quite a lot of overhang, so I'm just going to trim it back to the actual pocket. Jeanette, you need to open them now. Open them now. And tell us which ones you brought. Right, so the people that have brought the sewing machine cover panels, the sewing machine cover tutorial is going up tonight on YouTube. I will put the link in the group. Don't we all? Don't we all have overhang? Yeah, yeah, we do, Lisa. I've got a muffin top with these jeans on that I've got today. Muffin top. Right, so the next thing we need to do is to do the, open up this, to do the binding on both sides. So we're going to do the binding. But the first thing we need to do is stick this into place, which is the spine. So, blueberry muffin. Yeah, if you want to call it blueberry. So you're going to get your spine piece. On the wrong side, you're going to fold in the two long edges into the centre and press. I've done it 1/4 inch, but it's totally up to you. Mine didn't meet into the centre, because what I have found with this one is that I actually ironed mine so it met into the actual physical centre, and now I'm finding that I can't fit scissors or anything in this section when these pockets are full. So I've now come to the agreement is, with me, depending on how wide you want or what you're going to be putting into it, is how wide you want this spine to be. So I would say don't go no less than 1/8 of folding it in onto the back, because of the fact that if you do it less than 1/8, you might not catch the stitches. So I'm sticking to 1/4 inch. It's just basically because we're using 1/4 inch. I'm going to run some quilt tape on both sides of that. And definitely going to find the center. So I'm just going to pop a pin in. So I've popped some pins in. Then I'm going to peel off the backing off both of these, buffer tape. Peel off the backing tape off both sides. And then I'm just going to flip this over and pop this into the center and stick it into place like so. So we're not going to sew this into place until the very last few steps of putting the actual case together. So you really do need to like really press it down. Right, so the next thing we need to do is do the binding. So you should still have some binding. I love my panels, so nice. Thanks, Karen. I really like the printers because they actually speak to me quite often, and they ask me the colours. They always send me a sample to make sure the colours are to my liking. Harry is really good, and he is very, very top notch as following through and making sure it's fine. Right, so you need to go to your iron and press this, open this binding up that you made last session. And what brand of buffer tape do you use? I actually use the Amazon. I will put the link into the description once the live's finished, and then basically you can buy like 4 for £9 or £13 or something like that. So it's really good. You get about 30 or 40 yards per roll, so you get quite a large amount. Right, so I'm just going to go to the iron and fold this over by 1/2 inch in to the centre. So I'm opening up and folding it in. And then I've just repressed it, so it's now folded, so it's wrong sides together. Now this is where you need to measure the length that you need it. So I'll give you the measurement that you'll need to cut it down to. Is 14 1/4, and you'll need to cut 2 of those. And that's before you've actually folded it at the end. Don't chuck away that piece because that will make your cover button. I don't, Teresa, I really don't. They're all sold out now. When the manufacturers come back, I will be pre-ordering again, but I'm actually closing down my physical orders, physical sending out stuff physically. I'm only selling digital stuff at the moment because I don't want to get caught with the virus or anything. Right, so I'm just going to refold that, and then I'm just going to go to the other end of one of the strips and then fold that 1/2 inch and take that to the iron, fold it in, and then press it and then fold it again. Right, so now we've folded it both ends, so you got that one folded in by 1/2 inch. Trees, I will be bringing them back later on in the year once all this virus stuff is over, so don't worry about it, they are coming back. And I folded it over on the other end. Do you remember, like we did last week, we're going to sew it onto the one side and then flip it over and then sew it back. So I'm just going to clip it into place, matching up the raw edges. And your folds should naturally finish where your zips are. Now, because this is 2 1/4, I'm just going to sew 1/4 inch away from the edge. And you'll notice my presser foot is going up at an angle, so I'm just going to get my bulky seam made. to help it at the start. I'm just going to reverse the stitch. Oh, took that out too soon. Just like last week, I'm going to use my Tailor's Awl, but if you've got like a purple fang, you'll need it for this next step. So we're going to fold this over. You can give it a press, but if you're going to press it, you need to watch the mesh. And we're just going to fold it over to the outer side. Now don't worry about this bit here in the centre. We will get round to that. So we're going to flip it over and just clip that into place. I'm going to go all the way down. Right, so you're going to get your awl and you're just going to keep pulling it to the center, so basically it doesn't come unraveled as you sew along. And I know this is going to be a bit bulky at the start, so I'm just going to put my bulky seam aid in to just give it a bit of a start. And I'm reversing my stitches at the start. As you can see, I'm going slow because I want to make sure I'm catching the binding. And I'm going to reverse my stitches here as well. Sandy, it really does make a difference. It also, especially with jumping stitches and stuff like that, a lot of people, that's one of the biggest complaints that people say, oh, it's jumping stitches. It's because the foot's not at a right angle, at the flat angle that it needs to be. So I'm just cutting off any excess thread. Right, I'm just going to quickly repeat the same process for this side. So going to get my binding and fold it in and give it a press 1/2 inch on each end. Right, and then I'm just going to repeat the same process, starting from the front side, no, starting from the back side, the wrong side, and the back side. Child. And clipping that into place. And then just going to sew it into place again. Jennifer, you're only cutting out now because you've received your panel? Because I can't wait to see it finished. Oh, I'm gone. Right, there you go. And then just going to flip that over. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I loved designing the bucket bag panels with Amy. Yeah. She did a stellar job with matching up like the polka dots. She designed the polka dots. Are you selling the instructions and dimensions of the thingy-mabob instructions? No, do you mean for this case that I'm making now? This is actually a free blog post. So everything is actually on the blog post. And it's a free follow along. All the cutting out measurements, what you need is on there. The only thing that I've added since then is the zip tabs. So right, I'm just reversing my stitches. And coming near to the end, guys, near to the end. So who's actually going to use it as an EPP or case, or who's going to use it as a tool case to take to retreats or sewing classes? Be nice to know. Right, so do you remember the very first session that we did? We made the outer part. Right, so at the end of the live video, I will actually in the description put the 2 blog posts that you will need to actually basically add it to know what you're cutting out and stuff. Right, so you got your outer part and your inner page. So we need to pop this on top, so where your center was, and the first thing you're going to do is sew down the center. So the way I did this was because I wanted to make sure I got it perfect and I didn't want to make it not perfect. I folded it in half and put some pins in on the half centre parts. So I got a pin in that section there, and I'm just going to put a pin in this one. Does anybody know when the sewing bee's starting? Dying for that to start. Right, so in your plastic pocket, your vinyl pocket, you will have your centre stitching, which is where your two centre panels meet on the outside. We are going to pop and match up the two centres. So that's your centre pin to your centre sewn line from your outer, and we're going to pop some clips holding it into place, and then we're going to do the same with this one. Oh, yeah, I noticed that. I'd just like to know when that soon is. Right, so you'll notice that, and I'm hoping you can see this bit, is your outer binding for your outer main bag will be just a bit higher than the binding that we've just sewn, and that will be on both sides. So the next thing we need to do is sew 1/8 of an inch away from this folded spine edge all the way down. Then we're going to sew across where the binding is at that point there, and then sew up the other side and then across. You'll see as I'm going along. Now I'm using a stitch length 3.5 just because we're going through a large amount of bulk. And I'm reversing my stitch. And I'm doing it really slowly. And as you see, I'm coming to where the binding is, so I'm just going to remove my clips and pin and just go to where the binding is. Lift your presser foot up. Sally, there is in the rules that we can't enter, so people that have done TV appearances on sewing stuff, or who have their own like sewing shops and do tutorials, can actually not enter because they class it as amateur sewers. Because my friend who used to own a shop basically wanted to enter, so she went to apply, and then they said, oh, because you own a shop, unfortunately you can't enter, which I find really, but it is meant to be for amateurs really. So right, I'm just coming to this side, so I'm just going to remove my clips and my pin, and stop, and then just flip it around. and reverse your stitch at the end. I'm just getting rid of any overhang. And what you'll notice is on the, let's just trim that back. On the actual outer, it should actually generate a rectangle, and in the centre should be your centre sewn line where you joined your two panels together. So that is your main construction of the case done. The next thing we need to do is just do the actual button to cover it up. So I'll show you how to cover up the button. So I don't know if your cover button will be the same as mine. I sell these ones. Great British Bag Maker. Yeah, me and Lisa Lamb. Duo. Right, so I've got some leftover binding and I'm going to cut this round about, I don't know what it will be. Let me just measure that. So my button is 19mm. Some people will have larger. And like I say, you don't need to have a cover button, but I cut approximately 2 inches. I won't need that. The next thing you will need is a needle with a bit of thread on. Just going to tie a knot on the end of the thread. Teresa, I will be putting it up on YouTube later on tomorrow, so don't worry about it. So you're going to pop the button on, and you've got to make sure there's quite a large amount around the button, because eventually this will be inside this cup area. So I'm just going to trim that back even more. And as I've got a centre a fold, I'm just going to give it a quick press. Right, so I'm going to pop the button on and just do a little circle around it. Now people are probably going, why are you doing a circle around it? It's because I need to know where I'm sewing. Right, so I'm just done a quick circle, and I'm just going to do a running stitch all the way around the outer, about 1/4 of an inch away from that drawn line. We would have to have special guests on now if me and Lisa Lamb did ever actually have a bag makers TV channel. Right, so I'm going to leave the thread, yes Lo, I said thread, to attach still. And I'm going to pop the button inside where I drew that line and pop my finger on top, and I'm just going to pull low, special guest low. Right, and then I'm just going to push down that fabric. I'm hoping you can actually really see this. Let me see if I can get zoom in a bit. push down that fabric as much as I can. Then I'm going to get this washer, and mine's on a mine's like concaved and inverted, so my inverted needs to go down. No. Oh, I don't know the difference. I didn't pass science. Okay, I'm just going to push it down like that. And you just push it down, and you keep pushing it down. I'm going. Okay, and you keep pushing it down. And then you trim off the thread. Yes, low thread. Or mom, if you're watching, Fred. And then you have a button. So let's get you back to where you were. Then you're going to get your case. You're going to work out where you want this button. I personally don't want it too far down. So I'm going to put my button round about here. So if I just get my button, I personally want it about an inch away from the binding part, and I'm just going to sew that into place, and I'll do that off air. Basically on the back of the button you'll see that there's a hole, and you just keep threading it through the hole and making sure you catch the fabric. Don't go through to the other side, we're only catching the foam underneath, and then basically that's it. And yeah, so my ugly mug is back. So yeah, so it's been an easy kind of tutorial, but today's just been a bit hectic because of this machine. So yeah. Now, if anybody does make this and makes any alterations, please add it into the Facebook group, because people are still learning, and if you find an easier way, just please add it in. But there's quite a lot of pockets in there. You can store anything in it. I'm personally going to put my second EPP in this case. I've just started a Louisa Gold's star cushion one, so that will go in this one, as I've got my Tula pink one in this one. So yeah. Yeah. So next week I'm not doing a Facebook live session. The next one will be the following week afterwards. The reason being is I just want to break and catch up on a few things at home. The house needs cleaning and stuff. Yeah. So the week when I do come back is, a lot of people have been asking for, you know, crossbody bags with the strap. They're wanting the cushion that goes over the shoulder. So I'm going to do a free tutorial on how to make that cushion with measurements on a blog, and then basically you using something that's got a curve on the end, and like a I don't know, just basically using something that's got a curve, and then that will be your pattern piece basically. So I will teach you how to do that. And then the week after, that week, I'll be doing 2 Facebook Lives. I don't know what days yet. I would need to work it out with my husband because he works from home at the moment. So the one session will be a tutorial. The second session will be just basically me going online, chatting to you guys. I will be sewing at the time. I'll be doing one of my unfinished projects. It's just basically for those people that are in isolation and who are by themselves. I don't want them to feel like they're alone. They can come in on Facebook. watch me sew. They don't have to be by themselves. And remember, if you are in isolation and you're by yourself, just ask for help, or if you're feeling down, just message me, or one of the admin might want to chat to you. So yeah, and we're all here as one big family in this group. So yeah, I just basically don't want you to feel alone and getting upset. I know a lot of us have a lot of sewing to catch up on, so yeah, get that sewing. Get that sewing out, and you can sew along with me, chat away, type whatever you want. And if you know how to do it, you might be able to come in on the Facebook Live, and and someone can join me on the chat, and there'll be 2 screens up so you can follow both of us and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm thinking of you guys. Yeah, it's people are going to be stuck in. It's not, you're not by yourself. There's going to be so many people doing it. Look at Italy, Spain. They're in their courtyards doing, on their balconies, singing and dancing at 6 o'clock at night. So we can do the same, but if you're like me, you want to do it via sewing, we can come in on Facebook once a week and just generally talk to each other, chat, and do stuff like that. So I really don't want you guys to be by yourself. I know I've got family this end, but I know there's some people that are going to be by themselves, and it brings, and it wells me up sometimes knowing full well I might not have anybody. So yeah, we're going to be a big family in this group, and we're going to pull each other together and not be upset. So yeah, so I'll see you not next week, the week after, for the first sew along of the I'm going to call it the apocalypse sewing, because that's what me and the kids have been calling it, the apocalypse. So basically, so yeah, so the first one will be for the lockdown, not next week, the week after, and that will be the cushion strap. The second sew along for that week will be just basically free sewing, me sewing. I think I'm going to carry on with my mum and dad's quilt that I'm making them. And then the following week there will be a free sew along, and that you can make a full bag. And do you remember the book, the people that used to watch the Sewing Quarter? Do you remember the book bag? Well, that's going to be a free pattern, and it's going to be easy access via a few vlog posts with cutting out measurements, and yeah, and then we're going to just sew along for the 3 weeks of doing that. So yeah, look after yourselves, and don't forget, I'm going to be so British now, wash your hands. Love you guys.